One Team Media.
Welcome to the DGD Podcast, the Georgia Bulldogs podcast for dogs.
The gun again on first down. Fires wide. Juan Daniels, touchdown, Georgia.
This is your favorite receiver, Juan Daniels, and you're listening to the DGD Podcast with my man, Robert Reynolds. Go Dogs!
Welcome to this episode of the DGD Podcast. As always, the NCDGD himself, Robert Reynolds. Guys, live on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, Daily Motion. Catch us here. We're going to a lot to talk about today, and obviously, if you're Patrick Starr, you may not have heard this. The alliance formed by the Pac-12, Big Ten, and ACC. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, but also some things around the SEC as well. Definitely started to hear some rumblings about teams and their perceived measures about entrance into stadiums for the games this year. So we're going to talk a little bit about LSU's take to require proof of vaccination or the negative test results, and what could be the impact from this. Obviously, Georgia did not choose to do that, and several other SEC teams did not do this. So maybe talk a little bit about the ramifications, perhaps, of what could come from that decision by LSU. And obviously, Josh Brooks, athletic director, decided to make a announcement, kind of odd one. So we'll talk a little bit about that as well. But first, look, we're going to talk a little bit about Lots of Rain. If you're not familiar with it, guys, Dawn of the Dog giveaway, 2 tickets to Georgia versus South Carolina. All you have to do is go to lotsofrain.com, as you can see here. If not, you're looking at la-touraine, TOURAINE.com. Basically, just provide proof of purchase. No minimum requirement whatsoever. You could buy a pair of sunglasses and get an entry. Also, it's itemized. So if you get 3 different items and use code DGD, that's the key. Use code DGD, get 3 items or 3 entries into the giveaway. Huge, 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 huge. You could win them for free. So keep that in mind. The winner will be selected September 10th. September 10th at 8 a.m. is when entries will be stopped and counted, and a winner will be provided then. Also, announcements regarding Lots of Rain and the DGD podcast, guys. This is a filler for interest here. The Legacy 2 DGD edition. If you're not familiar with what this is, guys, we're painting it black. One of the sleekest designs that Lots of Rain offers. All black. And it's going to be beautiful. So if you're looking at the screen, typically the Legacy 2, look, Legacy 2 has a Swiss movement design, one of the best designs you can get. It's a great watch. The thing about it is, though, guys, the all leather is now a mesh design. So it's going to be interesting there. Let's just say this right here. If you can see in the chat, I have the Legacy 2 DGD edition. If you're listening to it, guys, I will provide it in the show notes and on social media. But there is there's the website there for people that want to be interested in the DGD edition watch. Go check it out. Let Lots of Rain know that you're interested in it. Look, DGD's wear it only, guys. That's all it is. So make sure you get one. Obviously, just a filler for interest. If there's enough interest, it'll be a product run. And look, every DGD needs a watch. So check it out. And another important information here. Look, DGD giveaway, right? On the road to 1,000 followers here, right? 1,000 followers on Twitter. So make sure you follow the DGD podcast on Twitter. We're only like 150 some away right now. Look, if we hit 1,000 followers before the season starts against Clemson, we will run a giveaway, and the options, you could get a signed Nick Chubb Chrome mini helmet or $100 to spend at Fanatics via a Fanatics gift card. So make sure you follow us on Twitter at the DGD podcast, and let's get into this show, guys. It's a good one. The Alliance, right? Everybody's familiar with the Alliance and what it means, right, for college football. And honestly, listening to it happen earlier this week, I genuinely don't think it means a damn thing for all of those conferences involved. Let's start off right here. Obviously, for anybody that's not familiar, ACC, Pac-12, and Big Ten decided to form this alliance, right? And obviously involves scheduling and a bunch of other issues, right? And just to come to look at it and listening to the Zoom call that they offered, the first takeaway, there's no contract. There's none. It was literally a gentleman's agreement between 3 men and 41 schools. So there's nothing on paper. That right there tells you it's a bunch of bullshit. There's really nothing. To me, it's a half-hearted effort of trying to basically say the SEC is the big bully. We're going to fight back. And you get nowhere with that. Look, I don't believe in this alliance crap at all. I don't think it's going to matter anything. And if it tells you anything a day after the alliance, oh yeah, LSU and USC in Las Vegas come 2024. So that tells me that the alliance really is nothing. So you're talking about scheduling, but within each other, and then you go and schedule an SEC matchup. That to me right there, it tells you that it doesn't matter. This alliance is nothing already. So it's just overblown. It really is. If there was a contract or a signed agreement, sure. I would think that there would be something there. But when you hear, that's like putting a promise ring on it. And what does a promise ring mean? Nothing really, right? So dealing with that right there, look, I'm not worried about this alliance. I think it's literally an emotional reaction, right, to the SEC adding Texas and Oklahoma. And honestly, I don't think it's going to mean anything. Nothing's going to materialize after this, out from this. Nothing's going to happen. Nothing's coming of this. If it does, cool. But if not, look, you're already seeing it come day one after this with LSU and USC playing in Vegas come 2024. So again, the alliance is all hype. Don't buy into it. There's nothing going on there. It's just like I said, it's just an overreactional an over-emotional reaction. Say that 5 times fast. Anyway, obviously coming into it, the perception was, that these 3 conferences, are going to stick together. They're going to make moves, play more interconference matchups, right? Or within the 3 conferences. And what would that mean to the group of 5? But the one thing that a lot of people may not have even realized, or that they did, it's a glaring weakness. You left the Big 12 out, which means the Big 12 is dead. All right, guys, the Big 12 is dead. Let's just be honest here. Let's just be honest. You sit there, you want to have this, the alliance is formed, to fight the SEC, but you forgot the other conference, right? The Big 12. Big 12's dead, guys. That right there just told me that all other 4 Power 5 out of the 5 conferences they don't care about the Big 12 anymore. That just tells you that Texas and Oklahoma were the Big 12. You could honestly see a group of 5 conference like the AAC become that Power 5, in all honesty. Not saying they will, but I think you're definitely seeing that. Right now, the Big 12, without Texas and Oklahoma, is on par to be the AAC, because really there's no good football product whatsoever. AAC has better football product right now than the Big 12 without Texas and Oklahoma. There's no question about it. I mean, you have Oklahoma State, which is fair. West Virginia, I think you're going to see teams, in the Big 12 as it stands now, they're going to get picked apart. But you're also here, I was reading an article about perhaps the Big 12, what it is right now, acquiring teams to stay relevant. You're still gonna sink almost, because the revenue loss. If you do acquire other schools, right, and maybe we'll sit here and figure out which schools to replace Texas and Oklahoma. You replace them. Guess what that means? You're still losing a ton of revenue. Oklahoma and Texas were your revenue for the Big 12, and now that is gone. What does the other schools in the Big 12 provide? Maybe some basketball. I think Kansas basketball is probably the best sport, non-football there. They're a trash program when it comes to football, though. So with that being said right there, I genuinely don't believe that the Big 12 stays relevant. I don't believe that you can acquire schools, because you have to acquire schools that are going to generate some sort of revenue. What schools out there, right? I think you could look at other schools, Cincinnati, right? Cincinnati's one. Hit areas, hit markets, right? Cincinnati right there in a big market actually would make sense to try to generate some revenue. But they're in a group of five. UCF's another one. UCF is in Orlando, right? Great market. But do you think that, UCF is going to sit there and leave the American and come in to the Big 12? I don't really think so. What does the Big 12 have to offer? Not really much of anything right now. So, this is why my prediction is the Big 12 is dead. And I think you're going to see teams get dispersed around other conferences. You're going to see these teams go in and get sucked in. I think you look at, obviously the ACC. To me, it makes logical sense to add West Virginia there, right? West Virginia is in that ACC footprint. You can kind of see them kind of bordering between Big Ten and the ACC. I just think the better fits the ACC. It's just they're in the they're in there in that footprint of the ACC. I think they would fit in and do well in the ACC in regards to most programs even outside of football. West Virginia doesn't have a terrible football program. Adding the ACC program, adding them into the ACC makes sense. But nonetheless, outside of the Big 12, there's one school that I'm curious about and what happens with this program, and it's Notre Dame. Notre Dame is sitting there, and they've basically doubled down on staying as independent. What happens with this if this alliance does take form of something that's actually worthwhile, right? If these conferences start sucking up other teams and the time comes to the point where Notre Dame has to make a move, I think that's coming, right? It's coming. But what happens to Notre Dame? What are their moves, right? They have I would say the NBC deal, which is amazing, right? It's an amazing deal. That's why I think you see Notre Dame not making a move to go to join a conference. But let's just be honest here. When Notre Dame joined the ACC last year so that they could play, there was actually damn good football there, especially when they played Clemson. To me, I understand they're already affiliated with the ACC anyway, so it makes sense to me that they go join the ACC 100%. Maybe the ACC takes on that NBC deal. It would be nice. I don't know what's causing, Notre Dame to not be able to do that, but I really wish Notre Dame would make a move and join a conference. I really do, because until then, with the expanded playoffs, right? The concept is you're never going to be higher than a fourth seed anyway, because you have to be a conference champion. They're not a conference. They're not in a conference. What are they supposed to do, right? So you're basically saying you're at the moment projecting you're going to finish at least or at most fifth, right? At best fifth. Now, with the prediction or what the projection was for the expanded playoff with 5, 6, 7, and 8 hosting a home game, maybe the attraction of obviously the NBC deal and a home game, right? A playoff home game would be enticing to stick around. Maybe that's the case. But, I genuinely think with the way college football is realigning itself and the seismic motion and movements under our feet right now as college football fans, look, it's happening so fast, and we genuinely don't know what to make of it. Right? Obviously, I'm telling you right now, the SEC will acquire Texas and Oklahoma, and Texas and Oklahoma will be playing football in the SEC next year. I just see it coming. And there's really the financial incentive is nothing near what they can make joining the SEC. It's just too reasonable and too logical for them to sit there and take that buyout and just give the Big 12 that money and say, deuces, let's go to the SEC. Let's do some big boy moves. That's what you need to do. Look, it's going to happen. It's just a matter of time when they make the move. And if they don't, I'll be surprised, because 2025 is way too far away. And the bad blood from Texas and Oklahoma in the Big 12, it's not going to sit well if they sit there and prolong that move. It's going to come next year more than likely. And that's just what it's going to be. Anyways, moving on to another topic here. We're going to stick around the SEC here. LSU decides a couple days ago that they're going to sit here and we want to require proof of vaccination or a negative test result or a negative COVID test result within 3 days prior to entry into Tiger Stadium for their games this year. Honestly, that is their right to do that. But afterwards, right? That was the first domino there. Afterwards, you hear Georgia, no requirements whatsoever, none, right? Nothing. Kentucky, same thing. Several other SEC schools decide not to sit here and make these requirements. No proof of vaccine, things like that. And this ain't even political. I think this is going to have an impact on Tiger Stadium's attendance. Look, Tiger Stadium, no one's going to sit here and argue with me and saying that Tiger Stadium, especially at night, is one of the most intense environments in college football. It's arguably the most intense. I think you put it up there with the whiteout at Penn State, but nonetheless, look, that is one of the most fierce environments, right? Obviously, I think it's because, the impact in Louisiana of COVID. I think you're seeing a huge hit there. So they're trying to protect students. I understand that. I'm not going to be mad at your decision. Each school has their own right. I'm not mad about that. I am curious to see how that's going to impact your attendance, because there's going to be people that don't want to sit there and go get tested. There's going to be people that aren't vaccinated, and you're basically telling them they can't come. So is that going to impact a full stadium? Maybe. We'll see. I think it may. But it's not going to stop the Tiger fans from sitting there and wilding the hell out every single night in Baton Rouge. There's no question that place is still going to be live, especially if they have the season that I think they're going to have. I could definitely see LSU finishing second in the West this year. They have to piece things together, but I definitely think it's going to be nowhere close of what you saw last year of what they put out on the field on offense and defense. You have Max Johnson as your solid starting quarterback. One, he fits that offense a lot better than what Miles Brennan could run that offense in. No knock at all. No knock at all, right? Obviously, Miles gets injured. Look, let's be honest. That TJ Finley transfer, huge right now. Huge. Because you're one play away. So that's going to change the offense. But nonetheless, I think your defense is going to be a lot better. And honestly, LSU, I think you might finish second, guys. I hope you do it for me, right? I hope you do it so I'm not sitting there 100% wrong. Look, A&M, A&M just announced Haynes King, quarterback number 1. And that's going to make that team different and dangerous. Let's just be honest. You add that ability to sit there and run over, obviously Haynes King over Quezada. Look, that's going to be a problem. That's going to be a problem. That offense is going to be a problem. And that defense is going to be no joke. None. With DeMarvin Leal as the head guy there, no joke. So could you see A&M finish second? Absolutely. I think the West is absolutely loaded right now. No question about it. And I really want to see the East get back to that way. Obviously, throughout time, you've seen the East and the West have this power, switch. Look back into the 90s when you had, Tennessee and Florida, Georgia, right? And you look over and LSU and Bama weren't strong, and Auburn was kind of there, things like that. But now you sit there and you look at the West, and the West could be as deep as you ever seen it this year. You look at Bama, even I don't care what happens to Bama, as long as Nick Saban's there, they're a true title contender. You're always going to sit there and play for a perfect season. That's your expectation, as so long as Nick Saban's there. I don't see him leaving anytime soon. LSU, I think you're sitting there. Coach O knows what's going on there. Right? Coach O knows what's going on. He knows the pressure's on him, and that's understandable. You just won a national title in 2019. The expectations are through the damn roof. No question about it. He knows it. They're going to play with a fire under their ass, and they're going to play better football. A&M, I think they stay around the same way. Looking at Kellen Mond leaving, that could be a big hit, but Haynes King brings something that Kellen Mond couldn't, and I think that's more consistent running threat, and the really lack of care in throwing the ball down the field. And honestly, that makes A&M dangerous. It really does. Even looking down to other teams like Arkansas, which Arkansas' schedule has to be one of the most insane schedules you could imagine, right? But Sam Pittman's going to have that team playing tough defense, playing tough football week in and week out. KJ Jefferson replaces Felipe Franks. Interesting to see how that plays out. I think Arkansas is going to finish toward the bottom, but I really think they're going to be an improved team and probably going to see a bowl game. Obviously the question mark being with Auburn, with Harsin, what can he do? Can he change? Can he instill the culture and continue the way that Auburn needs to be? That's the question there. But let's be honest, the East, guys, the East. Everybody thinks, you listen to the media, you think that Florida's going to sit there and stay toward the top. Guys, I'm here to tell you that I don't see that. And if you're a Florida fan and you're listening, I really don't care that you get pissed off about this, but I could see you finishing as low as 4th. Because you're first off, your schedule is absolutely brutal, guys. It really is. Florida's schedule is absolutely brutal. You sit there, you bring in Alabama to the Swamp week 3. That's right there in itself. That's a definite, almost a definite loss. And look, if you win, great. But I just don't see it happening, guys. I really don't. With Bryce Young, Bryce Young's going to be a great quarterback. I really have to see what he's about in a big-time game. But nonetheless, he's going to be the next great Alabama quarterback. Prove me wrong. Maybe he will. I don't know. I just think that he's going to be the next great Alabama quarterback. And that's that. You sit there, you have that right. You have Alabama week 3. Look, Kentucky's no slouch, guys. Kentucky with Mark Stoops. I tell you, Mark Stoops is one of the most underrated coaches in all of college football. And I think he's the most underrated in the SEC right now. Defensively, the guy is doing great things with Kentucky. You sit there and you transfer to the offense. You switch over to the offensive side of the ball. Chris Rodriguez in the running game. Look, they're going to run it down your throat. But they have something this year that's going to make them a true threat. And why I think they finished second in the East. Will Levis from the transfer from Penn State. Look, they can move the ball down the field. They have a passing game. They have to show it, but they have the potential to exploit a passing game. That's all they needed last year to sit there and make true waves in the SEC East. I think it happens this year. They finished second in the East. And I think, honestly, Missouri could finish 3rd. I really do. With Coach Drink there, it's going to be a huge thing, a huge observation to see what he does in year 2. Behind Georgia. I don't see nobody stopping Georgia, but, obviously things have happened. But let's be honest here. Florida, you play Georgia, you play Alabama, you play LSU, which is going to be a lot better. That right there in itself, guys, that's an insane 3 games for any team within a season. You could almost look at 3 almost guaranteed losses if you're not careful. You look at what Kyle Trask was, a generational player. Kyle Pitts was same thing. You're losing that. How much can you replace? The defensive side of the ball, guys, the defensive line did not get any amount of pressure last year, and it showed on your defense because your product was absolute dog shit because there was no pressure. Look, you can always sit there. Pressure up in the front 4 can always cover for a weak secondary, but a weak secondary cannot cover from a weak pass rush. You have to get to the quarterback to be successful on defense in the SEC. And most less in college football in general. You got to have to sit there and have a damn good upgrade compared to what we saw last year along that defensive line, generate pressure to really make it up. Because if you don't, you're in trouble. You're in trouble. And Todd Grantham could be gone this year if it doesn't happen. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say about that. But anyways, enough about our SEC roundtable here. Definitely want to sit here and talk about the attendance, right? Look, 100%. Georgia announced it 100%. I expect everybody else to announce that it's 100%. And look, that's a damn good thing for college football because last year when you're at 20%, it's just not the same, right? It's just not the same. Even for whether you're watching on TV or in the stadium, it's just not. It doesn't feel right. Having 100% is going to feel right, and I can't wait for it. I cannot wait for it. But you sit there, you listen to Georgia with athletic director Josh Brooks. Look, guys, on Twitter, he's sitting there making an announcement, hints at something, Look, as a fan, I really thought they were going to allow beer, right? I read that and I was like, it's about to be beer in the stands, right? Turns out Zaxby's ice. A little bit of a letdown there, but Zaxby's does make some damn good ice. So make things pretty damn cold. Get a nice drink, right, and make it cold with Zaxby's ice. A little bit of a letdown. I was expecting beer. I think a lot of people really wanted that, but look, tailgating, I'm sure it's rowdy as hell anyway, right? Do you need beer in there? Absolutely. Absolutely you do. The revenue from that would be through the roof. But you sit there and you look at the scope of the NCAA, right, with this alliance. Let's kind of to recap here. The SEC alliance, or the alliance against the SEC, I should say. Look, that alliance is bullshit, guys. There's nothing that's set in stone, and that thing's going to fall apart faster than a one-ply toilet paper. I'm just saying. You sit there, the SEC and Greg Sankey are making shark moves. They are sharks in the water, and you saw that, and it became very evident when the SEC acquired Texas and Oklahoma. And it just shows you how dominant the SEC is over the other conferences in the NCAA. You sit there, you hear the alliance. There's potential. There is a potential that the alliance could sit there and help establish a move away from the NCAA in regards to a governing body. I think if they do that, look, anything you sit there and provide outside of the NCAA to counter the NCAA is going to be better than the NCAA. The NCAA is literally just a figurehead. They're nothing. They're nothing. They don't govern for shit anyway. Pardon my French. They don't. You sit there, you see all these recruiting all the recruiting allegations, right? You hear sexual assault, things like that. Baylor comes up to mind, right? But then you sit there and you hear other kids, just getting a place to crash on a recruiting visit, and they're getting penalized, for shit like that. Get out of town. Get out of here with that. Sit there. That just shows you they're incompetent. NCAA is basically dead to me as well anyway. I think it's just a matter of time before you look at the other conferences and they separate from the NCAA and create something new. And honestly, I think if they do that, they're going to see more governance. And I think that's a good thing for everybody. I think it's a good thing for the kids. Be on, make it honest, right? But who honestly, it's a double-edged sword. You could see you could definitely see the Wild Wild West for what it's already worth now. But nonetheless, guys, look, I'm just going to say this right here. The alliance, bullshit. It's just what it is. Alliance it's nothing. Vaccinations, things like that around the SEC, obviously keep an eye out for what goes on around your school, right? Obviously, if you're an LSU fan, make sure you get, if you want to go, make sure you get vaccinated. Make sure you have a test. You get tested. It's not going to be that big end of the world. I understand there's a lot of people, I'm not digging down the rabbit hole, but you get where I'm going with it. Make sure you still sell that place out, man. Look, from a Georgia fan, I want to see other teams and their stadiums be ridiculous. I really do. It's better for college football when you're at 100%. You're loud. The environment is insane. It's just better for college football. So do what you've got to do. Stay up to date with your school and the rules that they have in place for attendance. Make sure you do that. If you're listening, go check it out. Look, you can find it everywhere. Just listen in anywhere, basically, and they'll tell you. And then if you're a Georgia fan, look, be prepared for Zaxby's ice, okay? Zaxby's ice. I'm going to end on that, right? Zaxby's ice. Cold beverages. Remember that. But on that note, though, guys, thanks for tuning into the show. Make sure to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, at the DGD Podcast. Make sure, look, we're only like 150 some followers away from the 1,000 follower giveaway. Sign Nick Chubb Chrome Mini Helmet or $100 Fanatics gift card. Check us out at the DGD Podcast or DGDpodcast.com. Again, make sure Dawn of the Dog giveaway. Make sure you go to LaTouraine.com. La-Touraine, Touraine. One entry per item that you purchase. Use DGD at checkout. 10% off your order, regardless of limit on. There's no limit for how much you spend. You can spend whatever. You can buy anything there, and you get an entry, and that's itemized. So if you buy 3 items, you get 3 entries into the giveaway. Entries will stop September 10th, 8 a.m. Eastern, and we will select a winner on September 10th. So make sure you go in. Look, make sure they got great watches, guys. The Legacy, the Compass, right? Make sure also DGD edition. Show them some interest here. Let's get the DGD. Let's paint it black. Make the DGD edition Legacy happen. Let's make it become a thing. Let's black this thing out. And obviously, if you do that, make sure you go to laterrain.com. The link for the DGD edition will be in the show notes for those listening. If you're watching, you can see it right here. But look, great watch, Swiss movement, key there. If you're a watch fanatic, you understand what Swiss movement means. Great product, great quality. Look, let's paint it black. Let's get ready for the season. 1,000 followers on Twitter. Look, make sure you subscribe, follow, rate us on Apple Podcasts, 5 stars preferred. Wherever you get your show, whether it be podcast or live shows on YouTube, Twitch, make sure you show some love to the DGD podcast. On that note, though, guys, turn back in tomorrow. Go Dogs.
This is the DGD podcast. Go Dogs.
And on video, as a good friend Brandon Adams would say, I'm going to sit here and introduce a new portion of the show for live viewers, whether you're watching on Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, doesn't matter, Facebook, introducing the DGD Q&A, basically. So wherever comments are, if there's any comments, I will take questions, maybe about 5 minutes or so, 10 minutes, depending on how things are moving for the show here. Right now, I don't see any comments. So basically just take some time to announce a couple things. Obviously, the Q&A being something new for anybody that's familiar with on social media and keeps up with me on social media. You'll understand that next week, Juan Daniels, the great Juan Daniels, will be on the show full time with me through the season. Obviously, sit here. Obviously, he'll be here doing Q&A as well. So obviously the Q&A being a good factor or a good incentive for the live viewers here. So obviously you're doing that right there. Also, look, local high schools, y'all know I'm from the Triad, the NCDGD. Look, let's talk about this right here. Ain't nothing but a G thing. New segment, probably doing it Thursdays. So it's worthwhile to introduce this. Look, Grimsley, everybody's familiar with Grimsley. If you're not, local school to me in North Carolina. Look, they just played Clayton here, and this is another school. 56-0, couple huge game from Alonze Barnett. 7 TDs. I want to say 359 yards. Looking at Tamori Thompson, I want to say he had God, I don't know, maybe 20 tackles or something. Tyson Resper, 3 touchdowns. It's just a all-out dominant performance from the boys at Grimsley, those Whirlies. Travis Shaw, everybody's familiar with Travis Shaw. Look, Travis did not play. Jamal Jarrett is another name that Georgia fans might really want to sit here and focus on. Kid is a stud. I'm just going to say that, a stud. So, obviously, as we move on, the Nothing But a G Thing segment, give you more stats and updates, give it a chance to promote the local schools. I might even bring in a little bit more than just Grimsley, depending on how things go around here. But for the most part, main thing to notice if you're watching this, first inaugural edition of in general and set in stone for the Q&A post show. So obviously, if there's any comments, this is a chance to read comments. This is a chance to do a Q&A based off of interact with the folks here on Twitter, Twitch, Facebook, things like that. Obviously, we'll be also doing the G thing, keeping it real with Grimsley every week as well. But on that note, though, since there's nothing going on right now, I hope everybody has a great day. And make sure you like and subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on Twitch if you're on Twitch. Like I said, biggest thing there, make sure make sure to like, subscribe, ring the bell for the notifications on YouTube. It goes a long way. Let's get this thing popping. Let's get it ready for the season, and go Dogs.